The primary purpose of Innovative AAC Solutions, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. They are not necessarily the views of Special School District of St. Louis County. Hey guys, and welcome back to, we're now in episode 9 of Innovative AAC Solutions. I'm Laura Hayes, joined by
Cheryl Livingston.
And, Cheryl, I was thinking about this today, and fun fact about me is that I actually used to play basketball. And when we had a tough practice, we would do these things called suicides, where you had to kind of, or up the mountain, down the mountain. And it sounds as bad.
I like the sound of that better.
It's just as bad, basically.
I'm sure it hurt just as bad, but it just sounds less threatening. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, you get to the top of the mountain and like you do these sprints, and then you go back down the mountain and you do less sprints, but you have to get to the top to get back down. So I was thinking about this today and the fact that we're on episode 9 and we're going down the mountain. We've made it to the other side and we're just kind of going down.
Okay. So you're referring to the fact that the calendar is showing us that the school year is now on the downhill slide.
Exactly.
We're coasting? No, we're not coasting. We're too far. We're still too up on the mountain. We've made it, and now we're starting to come down. Okay, I got you.
But I'd like to coast. So I hope that after this episode, everyone feels a little bit better, a little bit more set.
Yeah. Well, I always think the spring feels better in the fact that there's little breaks in there. So you're right. We're good. We're just definitely, but I, on the other hand, Miss Worrywart Livingston here, I'll kind of start thinking of, I got to get more stuff done. I've got a deadline. So the first half of the year, I think there's all the time in the world. And the second half of the year, I go, school's going to be over. So, okay, I'll take my breath and coast. Yeah. But I'm motivated to get stuff done. So let's put it that way. I happen to be a procrastinator, so I'm motivated now.
I think listeners might know that about you at this point, but maybe not. So did you procrastinate on your fun find this week?
Yeah, I did it right before we got on.
Well, what do you have for us? Sometimes I've heard that procrastination can be like the motivation and the fire that you need to find really good things.
I'm going to go with that because that's how my life has been. So what I found, and usually what it boils down to, Laura, is that there's just so many good things out there that I have to narrow it down. So it's not that I didn't have something, I just hadn't chosen one for today. So I did. I got that done. And I'm going to go back to one of our previous podcasts when we talked to Kim Dedemeyer from the Vocational Skills Program. And, our kids grow up. They do leave us. Again, that procrastination thing, I don't realize it till it's ready to happen. I don't keep track of how old they're getting. So I found it on Instagram, of course, but then I also have found it on Teachers Pay Teachers. It's a free resource, but I want to show it to you. So I'm going to share my screen. And what I love about this resource is visually, they're giving us a chance to, and I think it's, again, multifaceted. One is for our kids, so they can kind of see these different chores. And I'm all about, working for a living. But these kids can see their chores, but then they also could pick from this. But then also we as the adults, maybe we're like, I didn't think about that one. So
selfishly, is this going to work for Wesley, my 3.5-year-old?
Go for it, girl. Yeah. Let's start it. Let's start taking data on how quickly he learns all these chores.
I therapize him.
Yes. And he's it's a bright little guy. So I think this is like a piece of cake for him. He taught you how to build a snowman this weekend. So I think he could handle these kinds of things if you just let him have some time to do it.
Okay.
So I love the fact that, again, it's visually very easy for our kids to follow. On Instagram, he divided it up into easiest level. That's where we were before. And then it went to moderate level, and then it went to higher level. So again, we can do some scaffolding here and talk about what chores we could be introducing and then what we could expect next. So I like that. Anyway, free resource, print it out. use it in the classroom, use it at home, use it just, again, just the idea that we could be working on skills that they will benefit from the rest of their lives.
So how does she break down what the skill level entails? Is it based off of easy motor, easy cognition? Does she say?
I'm thinking it's more about how many steps are involved, what's the task involved as far as steps go, because as you look at the moderate level, there's more, that you have to be physically manipulating, you have to have more responsibility, like, feeding that pet. That's that dog's depending on them. So we have to make sure that gets done. And then the higher level is, I think, bigger areas, the whole bed needs to be made, and washing and drying the laundry. I think I'm going to try this one on my husband. So we've got, I think, a combination of things here, but I see it as, again, I just said, taking on more, being more responsible is your main thing.
And just reading the caption too, just now, Cheryl, I like the fact that she says some of the students' levels, even though it says like she's sorted them into easy, moderate, and highest level of difficulty, the skills could be different depending upon what your students' strengths and their interests might be. So, giving them those options and maybe feeling through what feels easiest to them and those self-advocacy skills and just see what you never know what they might be motivated by. Like if they like organization, maybe
wash the car, I mean, my son is a, motorhead from the time he was 2 years old. So I can see where even if it took all day, he might really enjoy taking the time and all the steps involved with washing that car. Now, granted, that's where he and his daddy had trouble because, daddy had a certain way you washed it. So maybe this isn't a thing that, fathers and sons do together, but he would have enjoyed that as opposed to washing the dishes. That wouldn't have been fun. So yes, you're absolutely right.
Or like watering the plants. I think that was one of the easiest ones. That wouldn't have been. So I think that that's a good point too, that she makes in the caption, is just to, offer multiple things and see what their interests are.
Yeah. So we will share this link to our resources.
But you might have said this, but I think so. You found this on SPED Adulting.
Yes. And on Teachers Pay Teachers, she is, because she has both of them. She's got SPED Adulting and Adulting Made Easy, also known as SPED Adulting. So when I looked for SPED Adulting is when that popped up. So, but it's free, absolutely easy to take advantage of.
Awesome. And I know she shares resources pretty regularly. And for anybody working with older students, it's a really good one to have.
And like we were saying, yes, older students for sure, but we should start young. Practice makes
3.5. Mm-hmm. One of Wesley's chores every day is to give Gunnar, our what is he now, 7-year-old boxer, a little bit of food. Now we're still working on portion sizes, but the job is there, and he understands his role and the why behind it, and so we're breaking it down to steps when we need to. But it's a purpose. We just started silverware too.
Okay. And is the dog at like certain time? Is he supposed to be kind of keeping track of before we eat dinner or after?
He still needs those indirect prompts, I would like to call them.
But
Gunner's bowl is empty. He looks hungry. And of course, my dog has to have a voice output button that says I'm hungry and I want food.
Now it needs to say, Wesley, where's my food?
Yeah, I think the last time we programmed it, because every now and again we have to reprogram it. It gets like kicked and the record button glitches. But Brian, my husband, he found the power of it. And so of course he recorded it his deep voice, like, I'm hungry, give me food.
Yeah.
They all got a kick out of that. Okay, so mine, I did find a fun find this week, and believe it or not, this is one that people may not be aware of because it's not necessarily AAC related or someone you would follow for AAC, but it is somebody I've been following because she has a ton of great ideas for sensory related activities and play. And her Instagram is Mother Could, and she has a website with the same name. So let me share my screen and I'll show you her website. But we had a really great time making one of her activities for Play-Doh. And she's got a ton that I really, really enjoy, but one of them is Play-Doh. And so if you go to her website, mothercould.com, she's got 3 adorable girls. She is bilingual and she's teaching them Spanish at the same time. So on Motherhood's website, there's a tab up at the top that looks at activities, and you can, she's also got recycled play, but I mostly hang out in the sensory play area. So if you go to sensory play, you can see some of the different things that she's done. I love the sensory bags that she does because you can, again, personalize them, throw in a little bit of dyed liquid, and then you can kind of interact with that bag. Really great for tactile books too. If you wanted to create some like tactile books, where you can kind of tape those bags together and create some hands-on tactile books. But we did, if you scroll down, jelly slime. I hadn't seen that one yet. I really like the 3D letters and shapes. That's one I have on my list, but you can also search. So if I search Play-Doh in the top, the Play-Doh recipe that we created at home, it's this taste safe Play-Doh recipe, pops up. And what I was thinking is this would be, again, a great one for everybody loves making food items, right? But this would be a really great sensory one that is super easy to make. You do have to have a little bit of boiling water or hot water. So that would be the only part that would need to be done by an adult, but it's just salt, flour, cream of tartar, and a little bit of vegetable oil and food coloring. And actually this is a little bit, and then salt. So this is a little bit of a different one, but it was great. The texture was great, and Wesley loved it. And we were able to pull out our core board and just do some modeling with it. And I think, again, be a really fun one to both make and then play with and create things.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And so you could adjust colors, you can adjust like as far as how much it makes a bowl full, right? Is it pretty good size?
It's huge. It makes like a full size snowball worth. In fact, Brian commented about how big it is. So if I was doing containers of Play-Doh, the brand from the store, it would probably be 4 full size Play-Doh containers.
Those big guys. Okay.
For one. So you could even, if you were doing it with a big group, it would definitely be enough for a
I was going to say, then you could
6.
divide it up amongst, okay. Did you try mixing colors? That was
I
always
told
my
him
thing
he
about
couldn't mix
Play-Doh.
the colors. So we actually did some essential oils in there too. And I told him, don't mix the colors.
Okay. But that was my thing about Play-Doh when I would, brand new cans. It was like, oh, it's so pretty. And then I'd hand it to my son. And then next day it'd be all of it was brown, I guess, it was like all, so I was like, no, keep them separate. But I was just curious on what it did.
Yep. Nope. We haven't mixed these yet. He has mixed some of the ones that we bought from the store before that. So I'm well aware of the mixing. But this is really good too, because it's lasts up to 6 months. So if you want a good activity that should last, it's a good one. Again, taste safe. So you don't have to worry about somebody putting in their mouth or
or pieces like you're at your house, you got a little one that she might crawl over and just happen to find something that her big brother dropped.
And she does. Exactly. It's impossible to stay on top of it. So I think this is a really fun find that everybody could benefit from. And it's just a nice carryover activity. Again, you can work on colors, you can work on core vocabulary, work on the functional skill of cooking. And what does that look like? But speaking of carryover activities and things that we can work on core vocabulary with, you sat down with Jane Odom.
Yes. Jane Odom is the person responsible for keeping the AAC Language Lab going and adding to, and I mean, it's a full-time job for her. So I got to sit down and talk to her about her experiences with AAC and the Language Lab and how everything comes together. So, and again, some of you know about this resource. You've used it a million times. Others of you, it's definitely worth checking out. We will make sure you have access to it. And we want to make sure you explore, take time to see. It's not oriented to just one particular system. It's sponsored by PRC Saltillo as far as the company behind it, but they set it up so that everything can be used with any kind of system. The Smart Charts, the vocabulary they have available for PRC, Unity, and LAMP, and then Saltillo Word Power. But you could use your own devices, whatever system you have, and make sure those activities fit that you're going to enjoy with your students. So it's a good place.
And I think you got a little bit of a hookup, Cheryl. So we have 6 new subscriptions for for our listeners to reach out and give away, right?
Right. So it's normally like $9.99 a year now. And so Jane gifted us 6 some codes that you could put in. So we have to kind of figure out, those of you that are listening, who's going to take advantage of this? And what did we decide, Laura? They just need to email us, and the first 6 people will be able to give them a code.
That's right. Yep. First 6 people. So time is of the essence. Just shoot us a quick email. Let us know you're interested, and we will send you out a code for a free 1-year subscription to AAC Language Lab.
Yeah.
So you can try it out. But it's really great. I know you're going to interview, you're going to go into it, but I love the fact that it carries over to different lessons. There's always literacy involved. There's always writing involved. It connects to core curriculum. There's a beautiful, beautiful
assessments. There's things that you could do for getting a better feel for your students, links to different sites that are already out there. So they've done a nice job of making it very thorough.
Well, I can't wait to hear more. So without further ado, let's listen to Cheryl and Jane's interview on AAC Language Lab.
Hi guys, it's Cheryl Livingston with Innovative AAC Solutions, and I'm here with a good friend. Jane and I have been friends for a long, long time. We used to work together, and I'd like to introduce you to Jane Odom. She is a employee of the PRC Saltillo company.
There you go.
I still go back to Prinky Roman because that's how we met. But she is the real live person behind the AAC Language Lab. So we're going to talk about that today. So Jane, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
It's so nice to see you live and in person, Cheryl. This is great.
Thank you. So we're going to start with Jane. Tell us about yourself. How did this all start?
So I was in college. And I got a degree in special ed, and it was actually a dual degree, elementary and special ed. And, I was going to be a teacher, and I lived in Philadelphia. I went to Temple University, and I was teaching in the inner city to get my student loans forgiven in a Chapter 1 school. And I got a call from my advisor, and he said, hey, there's a new program here, and it's brand new. We're offering free grad credits if you're interested. It's all in assistive technology. And I was like, okay, I don't even know what that is, but it was free credit. So I was like, yeah, sign me up. Best decision I ever made. I mean, truly the best decision I ever made. So I got to study under Amy Goldman and Dr. Diane Bryan at Temple, and knowing absolutely nothing, totally blank slate. And in fact, it wasn't even like an industry at that point in time.
True.
I mean, there were a couple of devices that were out, but they were really huge and nobody knew what it was. And most kids had a lap tray on their wheelchair with all kinds of pictures, and remember, back in the days, right?
All right, so give us a date. What year are we talking here?
So that was 1988.
Okay.
So so then I got to go through the basic classes, and I think what was life-changing was there was a program there called ACES, Augmentative Communication and Empowerment Seminar. And it was probably like the second year that they had the program that I attended as a grad student. And so we were learning side by side with like speech pathologists and OTs, special educators, along with device users. And they paired me up with a guy named Bob Williams. And Bob had a wooden board with the alphabet on it, and he would point to what he was spelling. And he was probably on word 5, and I was still on word 3, trying to process what he was saying. But Bob was like in his 20s, super smart. I mean, he was just locked in this horrible body with, cerebral palsy. So he was in a wheelchair, nonverbal, and they were considering where to put him. And, talking about, he needed to go into a nursing home because he was disabled.
Oh,
and
how old
Bob,
a man was he at that time?
He was like in his mid-20s.
Oh, yeah.
And we got him a Liberator. This is back in the day of touch talkers and Liberators. And so we got him a Liberator. It's brand new, cutting edge. And we got to do a training with Bruce Baker, and we learned all about MinSpeak. And Bob just came alive. And all of a sudden he had a voice. So he didn't just have like a way to communicate by spelling things out. He had a voice to tell these caseworkers exactly what he thought of their idea of him living in a nursing home. And so at that point in time, one of the parts of ACES was Dare to Dream, where you talked about what you wanted to do with your life, and Temple would follow you for a year and help you reach your goals.
Okay.
So he wanted to live independently in Washington, D.C. And he wanted to be part of the ADA. That was when the ADA was getting passed back then. And And he lobbied Congress and the Senate, and he went to all the protests and, helped get the ADA passed. And then he went to work for President Clinton for 8 years as Commissioner for Developmental Disabilities. And this was a guy they were going to tuck away in a nursing home. And he just blew my mind. I was like, I learned at that point in time to never assume anything about anybody. And I also got the fire. I was just like, oh, I want to do this. Like, this is perfect for me. It just changes lives. So cool. I went down, I ended up moving to South Carolina, and I was just teaching. I had a couple kids that we were working on getting communication devices for, but there was nobody in South Carolina doing AAC at that time. Nobody, no speech pathologists. They didn't recognize it in the schools. And so I was just going out and helping different districts do evaluations. And I was at a conference, and I was approached by a gentleman named Chip Clark, who said, hey, I have this company called ATW. Do you want to come work for me? And I was like, well, maybe. And so we had our meeting, a job interview at south of the border between North and South Carolina, this god-awful tourist trap. Okay, so here's the funny story. We were having a breakfast meeting, and I got there, and I got up in the morning, and I showered, and I'm like, I don't have a brush or a comb. Like, I totally forgot to pack it. And there was nothing open because it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I did my hair with a fork. And I got the job. So I had to work for Chip.
Talk about adaptations. You did some of that.
There was my assistive technology.
Yeah.
But back then, he represented everything. A lot of the different companies. And so everything from IntelliTools to Don Johnson to all the AAC companies. We had Erica eye gaze, which was brand new, huge eye gaze system. But I learned everything and then I learned a lot about the business end of it. And so I eventually went on to work for PRC, and it just kind of all fell into place.
Okay.
So I was a consultant for a good many years. So I was a consultant in South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina. And then PRC actually moved me out to Arizona. So I moved into Arizona in 2005. And here in Arizona, we have some of the most amazing AAC people I got to work. My neighbor was Caroline Musselwhite. Yes. So I learned so much from her and Deanna Wagner and many of the other therapists here that have been doing AAC forever, Gretchen Hanser. And it just kind of all fell into place for me.
Wow, that's wonderful. So like, talk about making history. You were a part of that.
Isn't that crazy? Like, it wasn't an industry when I started. It was just kind of like just now getting started. So there was like PRC and Dynavox, and that was probably much about it. Yeah. And I guess Speaking Dynamically Pro was another one. And then other little companies would pop up, like Inkadoo was there for a while, and Blink Twice was there for a while. Like, you just have these little pockets of companies coming in and moving in and out. So, wow. But PRC has pretty much stayed, PRC has stayed true. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's what, as far as you and I met when I first started at PRC, and you were, I guess, I don't know if you hadn't moved to Arizona then. You were probably. So I was
probably still in South Carolina.
Yeah. Because like I said, your son, our boys are close to the same age. So that's how.
Exactly.
So now you're at PRC.
Right.
How did the language lab, how did your current job come to be?
So actually, IntelliTools was a software company back then, and had all kinds of adaptive equipment for alternative keyboards and all kinds of cool things. So they were doing a big research project in the Phoenix area. And I realized like how powerful it was to pair literacy and writing with learning language. Mm-hmm. And we got all of these shortcuts added to the device. We were doing all kinds of cool things. And at that time, the CEO was Dave Moffett. And he's just like, you're really good at this. Let's, make you in charge of implementation. So I kind of did that part-time. So I was a consultant part-time, and then the education director part-time. I don't even know if I had official title. Mm-hmm. But then a couple years after that, they decided to reorganize the language lab, and that became my baby. And I stepped out of being a consultant and started working full-time on a different teams doing different things, but putting the language lab together.
Okay. So what do we consider the mission? What's the big picture for the Language Lab? How do you describe what it's all about?
I want to get kids talking, and if you look on the lab, there's a lot of content that was there previously, and then new stuff that I've added. And I always try to add something that's going to be surprising and engaging for the kids, and just flat out fun. I mean, they have enough to worry about in their lives with all of the things that are going on, with being nonverbal and having a disability, but, something needs to be joyful in their life, and learning language can be truly, truly fun. And I learned that through, Caroline Musselwhite a lot because of some of the projects that we had done together. But if you watch her in action, you just see these kids are just totally engaged because they're doing something meaningful. They're doing something that they understand why they're doing it. It's not like, okay, we're going to do circle time for the next 18 years of my life. They're doing stuff that is engaging and that is relevant towards them. And they're having fun doing it. And that kind of what I brought to the lab was that I wanted to do was get these kids just like out of the drill and kill old time stuff and into things where we are just exploring language and the power of language and expressing ourselves and having fun.
And what I love is the words that they're using, like I said, in the moment are fun. It's not like a worksheet type of thing where you try to, memorize something. And like you said, drill and kill is definitely something I avoid. But the idea that it's at the time they're learning for the sake of learning, not because somebody's telling them to.
Yeah. And I try to get up pre-COVID. I used to go out into the classrooms and work directly with kids and try this stuff out with them. And I could see if what I think is going to be good, is an 8-year-old really going to think this is cool, or a 12-year-old? And, doing the activities with the kids themselves and realizing we're on the right track. This is good.
Yeah. Well, and I guess so what I love about the Language Lab is that it offers so much, but then also because it offers so much, sometimes it's hard to keep track of everything. So when you're doing your sales pitch, not that you're out selling subscriptions, but just how do you kind of like put it into a nutshell about what AAC Language Lab is offering, what the whole package is?
It's a strategic way to, so language is language, right? And if you look in, a classroom of English as a second language, you can see, there's an order that things are taught, and it's the natural progression of where kids typically learn this. I mean, so it's Brown stages of language development. Right. And so we've taken the research by Brown and we expanded the first, there's 5 stages from Brown, but we made it into 6. So that first stage is when a student first gets their device and they just have to learn access method and, how things are organized and, where different words are and I'm going to push this button and it's going to do something and somebody's going to react kind of thing. So we've taken stage 1 and is for those beginners. And then everything is in order. Like, when do we introduce plurals? When is it time to introduce past tense verbs? When do prepositions come into the picture? And so everything is strategic in that way based on the research.
Yeah. And that's what I sometimes wonder if people really appreciate how far these systems can go, because you can do all of that language and all that, how we grammatically, put things together. It's in there. It's just, I don't put my emphasis on that at the very beginning because I want the students to experience all this positive reinforcement, but it will be growing with them. So,
exactly.
It's just a matter of, like you said, process wise, getting it all together. I love how much, like you said, just fun stuff. There's just, you name it, I think it's in there somewhere. So I love that.
I think my favorite part of the year is the summer when we do camp. So it's a virtual camp. I mean, it's just camp on the lab, but coming up with those themes and the activities based on that, it's joyful for me. I just love it. Like, let's see what, and so we started introducing like STEM experiments and other kinds of fun things that the kids are going to be doing anyway in school. And so they're learning without even knowing that they're learning. Yeah. And, reinforcing language at the same time.
And what I'm also wanting people to understand is not only is it, the kids are having fun, but it's laid out for the staff, the teachers, the therapists, the paras, the parents. It's just a matter of just, here it is, take advantage of it. It's not something they have to go create. You did all that for them. You've done the hard work. And I love the fact that now you've expanded, because again, I grew up on it being PRC and Unity and then LAMP, Words for Life, but now Touch, Chat, and Word Power
Exactly.
are available in there too. So it's so many. And also, back to the other side, if you don't have one of those systems, you can still utilize a lot of that stuff.
And
then
people
you
ask
just
me
have to
that
get your
oftentimes.
symbol set. Yeah.
Is this just for, PRC Saltillo? Absolutely not. It's just words.
No.
So if you are using an app or you're using, I have English as a second language teachers come to the site and utilize it, I mean, because again, you're teaching words and you're teaching, language concepts in a strategic order. So.
Yeah. And the resources that are also in there, again, not necessarily student specific, but you're helping with the staff and the teachers. News to You, and I don't know if I've shared this with you, Jane, before, but every week I do News to You supports. So I take what you give me the Smart Charts, but then I sometimes even take it a step further by the 4 vocabulary words that News to You highlights every week. I take that and say, well, how do we say this with core vocabulary? So I take those words, which they're good words, but I'm just worried that they're only used maybe a few times.
Well, we call those words from heaven. So you use them, for that week, and then they kind of float off, and they just kind of go up and do their own thing, and then we replace those with new words from heaven. So
but again, descriptive language wise, let's talk about those words rather than just having that name, that vocabulary word that you drill on, and then like you said, the next week it's obsolete. It doesn't pertain to this particular story. And this last couple of years, I started doing even more support in the fact that I was getting feedback from some of my teams. Oh, my kid's too low for News to You. And I was like, huh? No. So if you take the topic, and yes, the newspaper may not be engaging for them. Maybe that's, what's it about? So then I start linking videos that I find on YouTube, different websites.
Oh, fabulous.
So that we just take it the next step. So you're not necessarily reading as much as you are engaged with it. And then you talk about it and you search out it. And some weeks, oh my gosh, I have to stop because it's like, well, I've got enough. I've yet to have a week that I couldn't find.
But see, that makes it more relevant because it's actual news that is happening. And so, all of a sudden there's a meaning. This is why we're talking about it, because it's going on right now.
Right.
So that brings that relevancy.
Yeah. And even if it's not like a big event, which a lot of them are, it's something that could be relatable. So my example right now is not 2 weeks ago, we did the holiday train show. So they were talking about at a botanical garden in New York, they have model trains set up with the little houses and the whole bit. Well, we do that here in St. Louis at the botanical garden sometimes. So I was able to find video of that, but then just watching a model train going through. I mean, there's a video for everything on YouTube. It's amazing how much is out there. But again, I just pulled it back then to, well, here's our garden and here's what we have. And so, just all kinds of ways that it has been, I get excited about the topic. So I want to make sure our
changes all the time so that they're not bored.
Yeah, and that's what it's handed to you. It's on a silver plate. Take advantage of everything they have done. So again, I appreciate everything you do to even, and then I'll say, well, here, your kid's using this. Here's the cheat sheet that goes with that. Here, your kid's using this. So, so thank you.
Excuse me. We call them Smart Charts, Cheryl, because our kids are not cheaters. They're very smart. And so we just give them like the Smart Charts.
All right. And again, old vocabulary. So yes, I will remember that. No, let's say, no, your kids are using Smart Charts. Your staff sometimes need a cheat sheet.
Okay, well, maybe. I'm not gonna open that can of worms. Not going there.
So then also, while we're talking about everything that's on the site, the book of the month, well, first 2 years ago, you guys did a book each month that you were highlighting a story. And then last year you did the actual book club. And then this year it's going to be back to a story a month. Is that how I glanced at it?
Actually not me. So that's not me. We have Beth Wade Lefevre does supports specifically for PRC. And then Courtney Mayhawks does supports, and Lisa Tim specifically for Saltillo.
Yes. Okay.
And so those we're all on a team. We're on the TIPS team, it's called. And so they provide like the direct supports, where the language lab is basically language for any device.
Yes. Okay. All right. I got you. But the resource to get a hold of those things is the AAC Language Lab. So that's
Exactly.
what people can find all this good stuff on there. Okay, I got you. All right, I hadn't thought about how it all came to be. So as far as, we've got tons and tons of good stuff. How do you find stuff? How do you, like you said, you had the summer camp, you kind of like start a theme and things like that. But on a month, how often do you think you add stuff? How
So,
frequently?
it depends on what's going on in the world. So, when COVID happened, everybody else got to sit around and do nothing, where we were like, okay, we're going to get a site for teletherapy. We're going to, and so they had me going, providing supports for parents specifically because these kids were home now. So I was going on Facebook Live every single day, and I had to have a new, activity.
Mhm.
And so we did that throughout COVID. We had a couple new lesson plans that were added. We have one that's called We Are Home, and it was kind of so the kids could talk about it. Like, were they scared? What was going on at home? Were mom and dad worried? Why is school different? And so, some of those things pop up because of what's going on in the world. This year, I was challenged by the marketing team to do activities based on diversity. So I'm still doing Facebook Live, and we're finding, a variety of different holidays or things that are going on in the world that the kids can learn about.
Yeah.
And it may not look like their neighborhood, and it may be something unusual. And like today we did Kwanzaa bingo. And so, like maybe you don't know what that is, and you might have kids at the school that celebrate that. And so let's talk about it. Okay. So that was what we're doing this year. And then there's all kinds of other things that go on in the back end that take up time. So it just depends on how much time I have to, how much I can take in a span. Okay. But most importantly, Cheryl, is on the lab itself, there's a button at the bottom of every page called Contact Us. And so I get requests.
Oh, good.
And I take those very, very seriously. So we had somebody that wanted to do more on word families. And so I was able to put together a couple lesson plans and these like activity, kind of like workbooks almost, so the kids could practice and learn about the different letter sounds and the different endings and how those words can rhyme. And so we did that specifically because somebody asked for it. And even though it didn't necessarily fit into a language stage per se, because it's more about literacy than it is about language, but there was a place for it on the lab. And so I appreciate when I get feedback that comes in. And it's really funny because like somebody will fill that, contact us, and this little email box pops up and somebody will like fill it out. And then I answer and they're like, oh, this is a real person. Yeah, this is me. But the second version of the lab was totally built on requests, complaints, suggestions. We took into what people were looking for. And when we revamped it 2 years ago, that was first and foremost on our list. This is what we need to do. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I ask people just to spend time just clicking. I mean, it's like you find all kinds of things. I think sometimes the search bar is great, but other times it's like, I don't know what I'm looking for. So how do I type in a search? But when you just see, and then what's this? Well, how can I do this? There's just tons and tons of stuff.
And that's when we read, I have amazing web designers. So yay, Jesse, yay, Hans, these guys are awesome. And so when we were looking at what was this site going to look at, like, I was like, I want it to look like Pinterest, as opposed to like being so wordy. And so when you go on to
that's a good comparison,
choose like the activities and you choose the lesson plans, you can actually see visually, what is incorporated, especially the activities, you can see exactly what you're going to be doing. Yeah. But it's like way more colorful and engaging, and you can kind of mouse over it and see what's going to happen. So these guys totally helped us develop that. So that the site was more user-friendly. And then one of the other suggestions was somebody was just like, well, I don't know what to do next. So we have guided lessons now. So you go to the end of the lesson. It's like, okay, does your student need more practice? Click here. Are you ready to move on? Click here. And so we've tried to incorporate that as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is. I said, if anything, is just take your time, take a minute and look. Also too, when you're looking through different things, kind of explanations of things. You've got the core word list, and then you've got activities that go with it. So for those of us that have been doing this for 100 years, you go right to what you want. Others who are just new and starting, I loved how you did simplify things.
So one of the things that we added with the new site, and I walked into a classroom, here in Arizona, and Johnny was getting his new device, and the staff was all filling out these little forms. And I was like, what are you guys doing? So they had taken the lab and they took all the language objectives and they just made a checklist out of it. And they said, what do you think he knows? And so everybody checked off. It was like the kindergarten teacher, the music teacher, PE teacher, the SLP, the OT, PT, like all the, all the assistants in the classroom. And 99% of them came back exactly the same. But what it did was it allowed to see what they were going to be working on and what those next steps were. They got to go see all 6 stages and go through it. So we took that idea, that concept, because they took it from the lab and then we took it back from them. But it's a great school district. And but we made a little widget in the lab. It's called the screener. And so you can go in and literally check off what your student already knows and then the next steps. One of the things that I find fascinating, I get Google Analytics on the site every month. So I get to see like what's popular, what people are downloading, and what I've seen is people get stuck in stages 1 and 2. So there is all this activity in stage 1 and 2. So I'm hoping that with that screener, they can, then create a PDF of that, download that, and, and then progress. That child could progress throughout the year, and you can kind of show that progression. You could use those at an IEP meeting or to determine what the goals are next year, but that needs to go follow the student so that next year that teacher that gets the student doesn't say, oh, we have to start at stage 1 because that's the beginning. No, he's already done that a couple times. You need to now move on to the higher stages because he's ready. And so we're hoping that, that kind of documentation follows the student, and so that we can get these kids just learning more and more and more because they are sponges. Oh, gosh, yes. It's just fascinating to watch these kids that people say oh, they can't do it. And then you're like, watch this. So we have one little girl here that Caroline worked with. I've known her since she was 6. And this little girl, Evie, and Evie has Rett syndrome. And, there's this preconceived notion about Rett. And we have this little girl is on 84 location with Words for Life using eye gaze. She's so funny because she has a crush on my son. So she's known, Chase has always come everywhere with me. Yeah. So whenever he walks into the house, she would say cuter, cutest. She loves the endings. He's
just in a moment's time, he got to be the cutest guy ever.
He just kind of rolls his eyes and she's like, okay. But she's so she's communicating, but also the variations of the word endings. Yes. And I'll tell you really, this is just kind of gross, but really, really funny. I went in the one day and she's like, bloody, bloodier, bloodiest. And I'm like, Evie, she's 14. Guess what she got? And she couldn't wait to tell me.
Every woman's nightmare, yes.
But here is a little girl with Rett syndrome Caroline works with her still. She's reading, she's talking about stories, she's doing so much more because at the age of 6, we believed in her. And we didn't assume that she couldn't. The assumption was, of course, you're going to do this. And it took many, many years. She's 14 now, 14 or 15. But, it took that many years of constantly working and modeling for her and, working with her and giving her those opportunities to communicate and express herself freely, that now she's just, she doesn't always communicate the way you want her to, but she certainly... She's certainly let you know what she's thinking.
You had no misunderstanding about what she was getting across. Well, and I love the fact, like you said, the idea of this information following the student, because just like you were saying, sometimes new teams, I don't know, they're thinking they're being sweet and nice. I don't know, but they kind of want to undersell. We don't think he can do that. Whereas if that information comes, then it's like, no, we documented. He can do this. We're ready for that. And I think we need to do better jobs of sharing that information because I think in this brand new people, it's hard.
Yeah. In this day and age with technology and all the ability to capture that, there's no reason that that should.
There's no excuse.
Yes, we can improve. We can improve.
Yeah, but I'm glad you made that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Is there's all kinds of stuff, and I love the now we can make our own smart charts.
So guess where that came from? So that was somebody asking for it, and actually, if you use Pass or the chat editor to create your stuff, if you're using a Mac or a Chromebook, that's not a possibility. That software doesn't run on that. And so we were like, we have this whole database that our web guys created for us. And, why don't we use it so that people can just do stuff online? And it doesn't matter if you're on your phone or an iPad or a Chromebook or, whatever, you can create your own smart charts. there are limits, Cheryl, so I will tell you.
Yeah.
I started off with the top 400 word list from Gail Van Tatenhove.
Okay.
And so we had all of those in there, plus all the target words that were already in there for making smart charts within the lesson plan. But I have to literally put in 30 levels. So there's all the levels of word power with symbol sticks, word power with PCS symbols, Unity, Unidad, words for life. You know, there's 30 different levels. So you can make requests on, to get your words in the database, which is fine. And we encourage that.
Yeah,
it just takes me a little bit of time. So if you were to say today, oh, I need a smart chart for the word elf, I won't have it there by next week. It's going to take me a month because I don't want to put it in for just the level that you asked for, because somebody else might want that as well. Yeah. So it goes in for all 30 levels. So
I appreciate your time doing that, Jane, because that's, again, just, and I know you know it because you've lived it, but it's like you have touched so many lives that way because of the fact that now we can make things just easy. It's right there. Yeah. And again, Jane and I, like I said, years and years ago, Janet Layers, who, was always showing us the symbols right there on the page with the graphics. I still do those. I still use her graphics. I just put different symbols on there. Yeah. So to me, that's like, take it home, read to mom and dad, show them. But again, it's just a matching activity really, but they're learning and they're having so much fun and they're getting that positive reinforcement that they did it. So I love those things. I'm a big fan of smart charts, no longer cheat sheets. Smart charts.
Atta girl. There we go.
All right. Old dog, new tricks. So what I want to ask you now, because I know we've got all kinds of things we can talk about. You've already shared a few stories about device users. Do you have, or people that use all-cause systems, do you have a favorite all-time story? In addition to the Bob Williams one, I mean, that's pretty powerful.
That was life-changing for me. That one was.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a million stories. So one of my favorite ones, I was working in the middle school with, the teacher was very concerned because she had 4 kids on 4 different language systems. So she had a kid on chat with somebody on an app with touch chat. She had one student with Words for Life on an iPad. She had another with an accent with Unity 84. And she was like, how am I going to support all these kids? And I'm like, let's do it together. So, and we put this together as a presentation that we presented at conferences, but, getting that staff trained, making sure that you can't teach the language system unless you know the basics of the language system. Like you can't teach Spanish unless unless you speak Spanish, right?
Right.
So, we made sure that they went to the basic trainings just so they could understand the architecture of the language system and, how to find words when they didn't know where words were, right? And then we went in and I did like sample lessons for them. And so we were showing how these are just words and we can play the same game, but each kid can be working on a different language objective, but they're still playing the same game. So anyway, these kids they're middle school, right? They became extremely competitive and, because everything was a game. And we also did some writing templates with them. So they were writing poetry and reading poetry every week. And so they had their own poetry book. And then we had a poetry slam on Fridays that they could read out loud to their friends. So I'm going to tell you 2 stories about this class. So the first one was writing poetry. So we did an I like poem. And I talked to them about the kids need to have a way to freely express themselves as opposed to just having these canned activities where we're expecting like a certain answer. And so the teacher wasn't for sure. She was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, okay, so we're going to do a poem together. And so we had it up on the screen and it was a simple I like poem. I like blank. I like blank. I like blank. I don't like blank. Very, very simple. And the kids were like just coming alive and you're getting to learn more about their personalities. Well, she called me in tears, literally in tears. And she said, I'm crying a river. I don't know what to do. So one of the girls in the class, her poem was, I like Kevin, I like Kim, I like Delfino, I don't like me.
Oh.
And she just lost it. And I was like, this is so good because now we know how she feels about herself and now we can address that. You would have never, ever known that if she didn't have a way to express herself freely.
Wasn't a question they'd ever asked her, right?
No, absolutely not. So it was that powerful. But at the same time, we were there the one day and the kids were out at recess and they were allowed to take their talkers out at recess. And this one little 3rd grader came in just so angry. Delfino's calling me names. And I'm like, oh, really? And I'm thinking, okay, what did this kid figure out how to say? And she's like, it's a really naughty name. It's really dirty. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did he say? He called me broccoli head. was just fabulous. It was like, we're trying not to laugh. We're like, we're going to talk to him. Like, he can't do that. It's just like, with these kids, that device, then all of a sudden, look what he was doing. He was teasing one of his peers.
And for the sake of teasing. I mean, it wasn't like it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah. I mean, not only initiating, but actually like getting in there, and he was being funny, and it was just fabulous.
And had to go to several different categories. Had to go to food for broccoli, then it had to go to body parts for. It wasn't already programmed in there that way.
So I was like broccoli head. Yeah. So it was. So it's just fascinating, because when the kids, when you give them that freedom, and that confidence that they can to express themselves. Yeah. And that classroom like made all the difference in the world to those kids. If you could have seen them when I first got there, even the staff thought I was crazy when I first came in, like, because all those like little pictures on there, what in the world? And I remember one of the aides came up to me at Christmas time, and she gave me the biggest hug. She said, I get it. I really get it now. Like, thank you. That's awesome. So that's what keeps me going, Cheryl. That's what makes me.
And I'm sure you get those little sparks, those little perks every day, I'm sure, with something. And you mentioned you do the live training, so I know you get feedback from those, and people are so
and we're
thankful.
Working right now on a learning management system, which I think is going to be released in February in beta version, where you don't have to wait for me to do a live training. You're going to be able to log on, and like there's a whole, I mean, literally all my other how
many computer screens do you have there, Jane?
So I'm literally working on that today. But you're going to be able to go in and learn all about the Language Lab strategically at your own pace, at your own time. And there's all these interactive things that you're going to be able to do to kind of reinforce what we're trying to show you, but it's going to make you a better teacher, a better therapist, and the kids ultimately a better communicator.
Definitely. Wow. So it's evolved, it's getting better, has gotten better, and it's getting better still. So I'm so proud of you. You're putting out such good stuff.
The thing that they added this year, so because I need another hat to wear, we PRC Saltillo has always had an ambassador program, and so we have actual device users that are really, really good communicators that work for us. But it was kind of in the secretaries had the list of who everybody was, and you kind of knew locally, you knew locally who your ambassador was. But we've expanded that program. And so they've put me in charge of it, and they've asked me to organize it. So we now have 3 tiers of ambassadors. And I think our youngest is 6. And the oldest is, I'm not even going to tell you how old she is, but she's older. She's a woman. And so we have beginning ones that maybe just work locally, that are still learning. And then we have tier 2 ones, which we're training. We're now training them how to use Zoom. So that they can maybe speak at a faculty meeting or speak for a university. And then our tier 3s are these are the just the superstars that, probably have their own business. They're doing all kinds of other things, but we utilize those, maybe for some coding projects or, whatever we're doing. So you can go on to the lab under the blog section and at the drop-down menu, the final one is ambassador. You can see a whole variety of them. They're not all of them up there yet, but you can see their photo, read a little history about them. And then many of them have submitted videos that you can watch. And so you can see how they access their device. So, you can click on Chris Klein and see that, wow, he's got a degree in theology and he's married and he uses his device with his toe. Super successful and ridiculously smart. And so we're trying
very personable.
Well, I think this makes like the best marketing for the industry is to show actual device users.
Well,
because
I think a lot of times, that's, again, especially our parents, they don't, this is new. And that I'll be there. So, well, we're going to do this. And they're like, but who, I've never seen this.
Or I already know what they're saying. Why are we doing this?
Like, this is foreign. I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, oh, here. And then, So, and that's what I always try to go back. The sky's the limit. I have had conversations with individuals using AUGCOM systems, just like I'm having a conversation with you. I mean,
I don't want to tell you about some of the conversations that I've had with some of them that weren't so appropriate.
But the idea being that there's no, I'm not having to change the way I'm talking.
Well,
they're talking
what
to
you
me
realize
as an
is
adult.
they're just people. And so, what, some of us like to go to the casino. Some of us like to go see music. Each one of them is very, very individual. And I become friends with most of them because, when we have conversations, not about AAC and not about the Language Lab, but we have life conversations. And what are you going to do? So it's just fascinating to take it to that next level where you get to work with these guys and see, all right, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? And it's fascinating. And the other thing that's fascinating is we have a new curriculum on the lab called Brics.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say this. Okay, now we were talking about ACEs. Now let's go back to.
So Brics is basically based on ACEs, but we couldn't use the name because it's Temple has it, and so I was told, no, you can't call it that. So we made up another name for it. Yeah. But Diane Bryan has she's retired now, but she's given us full permission to use everything. So the big part of that is Dare to Dream, where you actually say to them, what do you want to do? And how many times do we ask our device users, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like nobody even thinks of that as a concept, right? So we took that curriculum and we wanted to put it on the lab, but we wanted to test it because ACEs is wonderful, but it's 2 weeks on campus at Temple University in Philadelphia. And, the participants stay in the dorms, and participants are AAC users along with professionals. So I was a communications instructor for that for 9 years. I was adjunct there. Okay. And you just learn so much. And so I knew how valuable it was, but most people can't get somebody to take them for 2 weeks to go to Philadelphia. It's just expensive and it's crazy. So we're like, well, we want it to be brought to people where they are. So we went into an adult day program, a place called Gompers in Phoenix. And we're like, we would like to do this. And so it was myself, Candace Steele, who was their SLP, and Caroline, and then our rep from Saltillo and our rep from PRC. So Jeremy and Sherry were there. And we went in and instead of a 2-week seminar, we did it as a 1-week seminar. So Candace went in ahead of time and trained the staff. So you have to understand, like at an adult day program, staff is making maybe minimum wage, maybe a little bit more. And they're basically caregivers, and their experience with using AAC is nothing. Right. So we went in and we taught them how to be a good communication partner. We taught them, what AAC is. We taught them the myths, and, we did all the myth busting and everything. And so they were kind of ready to see what was going to happen. So we had 14 adults that were in the program, and we basically did a modified version of ACEs with the Dare to Dream. And it was fascinating. Like 90% of them, their dream was to help somebody else. Yeah. Like it was never about like, well, I want to be an actress and make a ton of money. It was like one woman, Larancita, who is totally locked in. She's a young Navajo woman who uses eye gaze, said, I want to feed the hungry. Oh. And we were like, so what we did with her dream was we modified it. We was like, okay, so you need to learn a lot about like recipes and making food. So we taught her, we got her up and running on email. And then we taught her how to use the internet and surf the internet on her device so that she could pick something that she wanted to make, do the recipe, make a shopping list. So we had our first meeting. And so I said, Larancita, you're in charge. So she emailed me like the ingredients that we needed, and we all made a Navajo fry bread. And, and if you could have seen her face when we brought the food out and she realized like she had planned that whole entire thing. She chose what we were going to be drinking. We needed paper plates and knives and forks and napkins, and she did the whole entire thing. And all of a sudden her purpose became a lot more meaningful because she was getting to do that. So what was fascinating was we had a graduation ceremony. Everybody had to go up and give a speech about what their dream was. And they were all terrified, but they did it. We had a big party afterwards. But the job coach for the adult day program was there and incorporated all of their dreams into their individual service plans. Oh. And if you want to talk about motivation, you're going to go to Gompers every day, but you're working on something that you're interested in. Yeah. Yeah. It was a game changer. I mean, it was absolutely a game changer. And it was just so fascinating to see these guys, one little girl, she was the only one that was in high school. And she said she wanted to be a speecher. No, speecher. Okay. She wanted to teach other kids how to use AAC. She called it a speecher. We were like cracking up. Perfect. So we're like, okay, who's going to help you? And so she picked, some of the staff that she really liked to help her. And then she was working on literacy. She was working on being, learning her device better. But she had a goal, and all of a sudden it was, she was a different kiddo. She was just totally different. She was so much more motivated, and everything was more meaningful for her. So.
Oh gosh, Jane, on that note, that's so good. So good. So we've already talked about the fact that if people go to the AAC Language Lab, they can click on a way to contact you. But is there other ways that people should reach out to you if they have questions? Or
so we have a Facebook group. So if you are on social media, we have a AAC Language Lab Facebook group. You have to ask to be invited. And you can't sell Ray-Ban sunglasses or anything like that, but it's a great place. You can ask questions. You can see when new blogs go up, when new materials go up, everything gets posted on there. I put videos up there all the time, and I'm Facebook living it twice a week.
You were on there earlier today, weren't you?
I was on there earlier today.
When I checked mine at lunch,
there's
it
no
came
like,
up Jane's live.
I can't shower today. I gotta go on camera. At least from the waist up.
Yeah.
But so, and then Jane.Odom at prc-saltillo.com is my email. But the easiest, literally that contact us button at the bottom of the Language Lab, that comes directly to me.
I said, that's really Jane that you're talking to. So that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you do make a suggestion, I have an ongoing list, and I meet quarterly with the web guys to see what we're going to be working on. So that whole database thing came up from somebody requesting it. The whole guided lessons came up because somebody requested it. So we're always looking for new ideas. Always.
Oh yeah, I have chills. Just so cool. This is my passion too. So I want to join.
Is we have bloggers, and I pay my bloggers. So twice a week we put blogs up. The most popular blogs are written by AAC device users. If you have a student that you think this might be motivating, you can shoot me a message. I will send you the criteria. If the blog gets accepted, they get paid $30.
Okay.
And that's kind of like,
and they're seen nationwide. AAC
they're seen internationally. So the site is,
worldwide.
So the site is in the States and Canada. Okay. It's in Australia and then in the UK.
Wow.
So yes. So we actually have a mirrored version in the UK because of they have to be on a different server there for all that Brexit stuff. I don't know. Anyway, we figured out a way that it just uploads every night, and so anything new that gets posted on there. But it's the same. It's the same website, and you will see on the site that there's UK versions of things because of that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm so glad you shared that. I knew it. I knew you had people that were device users that blog. But yeah, that's right. We should. And again, this actual podcast is SSD, the Special School District of St. Louis County. So yeah, we have tons of kids that we really should. And if like I said, put the word out there and then start kind of practicing.
And if you can look through some of the blogs, because some of them are going to be like very in depth, and some of my adults are better bloggers, and some of them actually have degrees in creative writing, but some of them are written by kids, and it might be just like, I went swimming in the pool, here's my friend, it's with pictures. So it doesn't have to be some in-depth like crazy thing. It can just be a motivation for your student to share their story.
So they do motivate other students. Yeah,
exactly. But they do have to, sign a permission form that you can use their photo and video. Whatever's going to go on there.
But no,
it does go on the internet.
Oh, good. All right. Well, we're here in St. Louis, kind of like as far as Christmas break type, this is when we recorded this was prior to Christmas break. So I'm thinking this is a wonderful time just to sit and brainstorm and click on all kinds of AAC Language Lab stuff and just spend some time reflecting, because there's just so much. And Jane, you have given us so much information that I appreciate your time and getting to chat with you.
And the other thing is I get a lot of my ideas from Pinterest, but if you guys have good ideas that you think have worked for you in the classroom or worked especially well with your students, please send them to me. I will gladly put them on the lab for other people to use.
Cool.
And so, people are sharing constantly. We do have quality control. We make sure that it's going to be useful, and it kind of fits into our, how we think about things. But we're always looking for new ideas. So feel free to reach out, and I will gladly trade you a code if you send me, a blog or information. Just saying.
Yeah. We'll make a deal. We're good about bartering. So that's a good thing. All right, Jane. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all of your time and all of your efforts, and keep working hard, because, we don't want to lose any of this.
It's so good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
Glad you're doing well, and Merry Christmas, everybody. I don't know when you're posting this.
Yeah, it'll be after Christmas. So yeah.
Okay. So Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah. And it's like, and I always think about, we talk about a new year. Well, we have two. We have school year is new, but then we also have the new whatever now, with 2022 coming, we have a new year. So new things, new opportunities.
Excellent.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, guys. We're talking about the AAC Language Lab. So I'm going to take you on a little tour, and we're going to talk through what lesson plan I picked out to share with you and let you see kind of firsthand what it looks like. So I'm going to share my screen. And I am now on the AAC Language Lab. And it is a subscription-based platform, but they do offer many, many things that are free. So you don't have to have a subscription. Of course, you can more if you do. There's more available if you do. But I just want to show you something that's already there that's free. So I am going to go across the top here. I'm going to go to lessons and activities. I'm going to click on lesson plans. And then they have it separated out by stages. So we've got stage 1, stage 2. And again, this is based on how many words the student is putting together. So stage 1 is where we're starting. And I'm going to scroll down. There's different categories. They've organized the activities by categories. And I'm going to go, this category here is expressing negatives. So pretty common and yet rewarding thing to work on as far as our students are concerned. And I'm going to do let's play dress up. So here is the lesson plan. So what we look at here is they're giving you everything that you could, take advantage of immediately. So first of all, you can download the whole lesson plan, which is 9 documents, or you can just use the lesson plan, print it just by itself here. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So with a lesson plan, they're giving you what we're going to see on that main screen, but they're giving it to you so you can print it out. Materials that you'll need, vocabulary words that are going to be targeted, some resources. And again, we're going to click on these as we go through. So they're giving you links here too. And then more explanations of what each of these things are all about. So it's a nice, easy way to capture all of it at the same time. They even have some data collection sheets. And so again, they break it down into trial plan for core word starter set, first 25 words, blank data sheet. So if I do the trial plan for core words, then they're kind of showing me different systems, how they're set up. But these are the core words that we're going to be working on. And they show you more information about that. All kinds of links. And again, I want you to look at this because that's something that will give you more details. All right, again, scroll. So this is all more information based. And then if I go back up to a blank data collection sheet, then they've got sheets that you could use right away and fill in the words that you're working on. Okay, so let's go back to our activity. And what I'm looking at here, again, is kind of everything on a page, but I'm going to go back now to the website. Oops. And we're going to talk through these things. So first, they have categories of things that you can do with the student. So we have a speaking category, and it says play dress up with your student. Have a variety of clothing and accessories available. So there's a little handout here of a dress up vocabulary builder activity that you can look at. And this is actually talking about building with blocks, but some of the core words that you might be using. And also, they have reading activities. So I'm going to just show you this. There's different books, but I'm going to show you right up here before I forget that it's here. Is the book is called Do You Want? And it's a flip book. So what that means is electronically, you could be flipping through this on a computer screen on your smartboard, however you're presenting it. So there's our core target vocabulary and some instructions. And then here's the actual little story. Look, cookies. Do you want a cookie? And then we're going to work on I do want. And what I like is the emphasis on the gesture here too. I want to really, with my students, pair those things. So they're saying it with their device, but they're also got a gesture. Look, an old smelly fish. Do you want a fish? And then no, I don't want. So that's what the story goes through, several different things they might want or might not want. Okay. And so that's the electronic version of the book. But also, when we scroll down to the reading part, here's the do you want again. And this is set up so you could print it. And you could do it electronically too, but just that flipping and being more of a page turner, whereas this is more like a Google slide or a PowerPoint look to it. Okay, so same thing there, but there's more stories. It's mine. I should move myself over a little bit here. So just working on mine and look, look at the bed. It's mine. Look at that cat. It's mine. So just a fun back and forth. And then this one, let's go to school. So this one is talking about getting dressed. So mom said, put your pants on. Oh, all done. Dad said, do you want to put on your red hoodie? All done. So this is geared towards younger kids, but everybody gets dressed. So we could stretch this one to be for all ages. And then, so again, we've got books to read, then we've got a writing. Have your students use their device to fill in the target vocabulary on the t-shirt writing template. So this is the t-shirt writing template. So you can make their paper look like a t-shirt. And then there's an extension activity. So this is where they talk about print out a set of paper dolls. And they have a link here to a Teachers Pay Teacher purchase activity, but I found one that was free. So I'm going to include that in our resources, and I'll show it to you in just a second. But then there's a clothing match activity that they created to just have a, what goes on which part of the body here. So you can have the students cut these out and then glue them on with where they go. All right. So that is a lesson plan for with the heading, the topic of let's play dress up. It was under the negatives. So I'm thinking again, it's that idea of yes, I do, no, I don't. Yeah, those kind of things we could talk about. But I also want to show you, so the materials are generic. Anybody could use them with any system. If you have a PRC, Unity, LAMP, Words for Life type of system, or if you have a Sautillo, which is Touch Chat with Word Power, you could have a smart chart that matches those systems. So if you click on Smart Charts, then you can make the selection of, well, what am I using? So is it Word Power symbol sticks? Is it Unity? Is it Words for Life? Is it Word Power with PRC symbols? All kinds of different combinations. So for this example, I'm going to do Sautillo Word Power with symbol sticks. And then it's asking me, well, how many cells do you want? So let's say we're doing a 60 basic. Here it is down at the very bottom. I say download, and then it's going to generate the words that they're highlighting in these different things on the lesson plan. These are the symbols that you would have the student activate on their Touch Chat, Word Power, 60 basic. So it's a nice, what they call smart chart. And then you could print that out and have it. And you could use these symbols to cut them apart, make different materials, things that they're using to manipulate, finding the words or looking for, pull a word out of a hat or however you want to do it. But this is ready for you to use with your students. Okay. So like I said, if you have LAMP Words for Life, you click on that, then it's going to ask you, actually you just have full. They don't do the one hit and the transitional, they do full. But then I hit download, and same words we were talking about before, but this is what they look like when you're using LAMP. Okay. So again, one lesson plan, but multiple things you could be doing, and multiple time sessions, interactions that you could be working on these same things. Our students like repetition. We as adults, I think, get bored quickly, but they have definitely, benefited from the fact that they know what's coming. They kind of they feel confident. So we could do it, different ways and give them that chance to have that repetition. Okay.
So for our innovative activity this week, I just wanted to do and show you guys a carryover activity that you can utilize from one of the lesson plans from AAC Language Lab. There's a few other carryover activities I just want to highlight where we can focus on those same ideas, same vocabulary targets like do, make, look, put, want, same objectives using core vocabulary to express both negation and directing others. And you can use those same smart charts and all those resources for carryover. So if you are a fan of our IRC Instructional Resource Center and you're working with a younger student, I really like this Dress Me Bear. It comes with a song for a jaka, and it talks about getting dressed. And then when you open it up, you can see that the bear also has manipulables to dress up, and you can put the shirt on, put the shorts on, put the shoes on. If you're working with an older student and you're working on what we need to do to dress up, we can also target some of the awesome items like buckles. Buckle, lace, and tie activities that we have in the IRC. There's also some electronic resources I just want to highlight. So if we go to, again, for younger kids, who doesn't love Daniel Tiger, this is a favorite of my toddler, but you can dress Daniel Tiger up. And there's all different kinds of things that you can dress him or other characters like Katarina Kitty Cat and Oh the Owl. You can dress all of them up in different superheroes, in different costumes. You can talk about occupations, you can talk about what you need to wear when it's cold, or what body part you want to put these items on, and then the characters interact with you as you do it. So that one's really fun. If you're working with older students, there's a really great resource called dressupgames.com, and this is very trendy and fashion forward. So again, if you're doing occupations or if you have a girly girl, you can click on one of these. So if we wanted to do one for winter, we could go to the seasonal winter category and we could dress her up. So again, we can pick skin tone, we can pick hair color, we can pick an outfit. You can dress, and if we picked something that was not appropriate for winter, we could talk about that. Setting up some pans. We could talk about commenting, like, that's a terrible outfit, Ms. Hayes. Like, what are we missing? Maybe we need to add a hat. Do we have a hat? What kind of shoes would we wear? Would we wear these high heels, or would it be something that's not appropriate? And then you can save it, and you could either write about it then. You can capture it with a photo and talk about it later. All great possibilities. So these are really motivating. You can also even do something where you bring in actual clothing items and you do like a little fashion show or dress up, or you could do a virtual reality one where you have them pose in a photo booth and they get to make silly faces, and then they can put on different costume items or hats or masks, anything. It's a really fun one and a great carryover for a wide variety of age ranges. So definitely check that out and have those extension activities and carryover ideas, and let us know what you think.
All right. So Laura, did you learn some new stuff today?
I feel like I always learn something new. It's almost, I love doing this to share information with other people, but it never fails that I always learn something new every episode that we do. It's so much fun.
You and I are always like, oh. So yeah, no, I agree. That's kind of like a selfish pleasure that we have, is that we learn by doing. I want to reiterate what Jane said in the interview about how the site is customer driven. They want input. They want you to tell them, hey, it'd be really cool. And then they'll take it from there. So don't think of it as something far, far away in the internet that you'll never have any ability to contribute. You do. And one of the things shows the blogs, she's got all kinds of individuals, teachers, therapists, device users is a huge component of their, just sharing their information, feedback that they'd like to have let everybody know. So, so it is a very open, accessible, fluid site is what I, really want people to remember.
And I feel like they're very good about getting feedback from their legacy users and adults that are using AAC. So they're in the up and coming, and they're on the edge of everything that's new and technology and how we integrate that for communication for users. Because that's the most important person here, right? Is the person that we're doing this all for.
Yeah, that's as much as we are trying to help, we cannot really understand what it's like for them. So the more we hear from them about all kinds of things, the more we'll understand. So yeah,
definitely.
So no, it was good. It was Jane's always fun, and she's got, like, as far as resources go, not only on the lab, but she does on Facebook. She does live posts, where she's like talking about different things. So I encourage people to join those so you can be current and find out stuff as it's happening.
Awesome. So definitely check that out. We hope you enjoyed the resources too, that I'll link back to AAC Language Lab. And without, I think that pretty much covers us for this week, Cheryl. And I can't wait to dive in and hopefully the listeners dive into the next topic at hand.
Yes.
So have a great week ahead. Yep. Have a great week ahead. We'll catch you next time for Innovative AAC Solutions. I'm Laura Hayes.
And I'm Cheryl Livingston.
Have a great week.
Bye.